Hey, what's up guys? It's been a long time since I made a video. There's a lot that's changed, a lot's happened, and here's a little update on the Camaro and what's going on. Well, as you can see, I'm pretty much completely moved into the shop. It's full and a mess, but I'm making it work and getting some more actual work done. Got all my tools moved over here from the house, and now this is back. It's been back for months. I think I got it back in March, maybe. I'd have to look back at some pictures. Hauled this thing down to more race chassis in January, I believe, in a snowstorm. We hadn't got any snow for weeks, and the morning my dad and I decided to haul it down there, they got 10 inches of snow down in Missouri, and that was a heck of a maiden voyage pulling the new trailer. But we made it, got it smashed back into their shop, and they did their work. This is a 25.2/25.3 chassis, so depending on weight, it'll be 6.0 or 650. If everything certifies right, which it should, I don't see why it won't. They did an amazing job fitting this to the car. Like, it is super tight and it fits great. It is a back half now with a 4-link, which you might be able to see from up here. I had them just do a rough cut of the floor to get the actual chassis to fit inside the car. And so they left a lot of material like inside the rear quarters and the rockers and stuff for me to trim out. And they built the cage, and the body was just set on top of the cage for me to haul home, and I had to go from there. So I think I have some other pictures and clips that I'll try to insert in here, but I completely skinned the inside of the quarters out. I left most of the stuff on the roof because I was afraid that it'd be too flimsy, and putting a laptop and stuff up there or leaning on the car, I didn't want it to just cave in, so I left that. But cut a lot of the stuff out inside the door jambs, and I also reskinned the rockers because these things have a really goofy rocker. Plus these were smashed from someone trying to put this car on a lift. So got all that, got the chassis set in, and I was like, man, I can't do this on jack stands. So I ended up building myself a chassis table. It's 3 sticks of, I believe it's 2x3, 120 wall square or rectangle tubing. And I laid it all out so that I could get it in 3 sticks. And so far it's been awesome. I just shimmed it on the floor upside down and lightly welded it together, because I mean, it doesn't have to be super strong. So there's some like little tiny 1/2-inch long welds all the way around, because I didn't want to warp it or distort it either. But got some adjustable feet on it and got it leveled up in here. Then lifted the car with 2 engine hoists, which was sketchy, and rolled the table under it and set it down. Fixtured the back off of the Pro Jack mounts. So I made this little bar that goes across to hold those. And then I made these little saddles that hold the chassis up here, and that holds the chassis at 4 inches of ride height, which is what I was shooting for. And then I laser cut, or had designed the mid plate and got it laser cut from Send Cut Send. So that set my crank center line height. And then I made this little fixture hold the front of the motor up while I designed the front end and got it how I wanted before I made the front motor plate. My idea is to be able to have a 3D file for the mid plate and the motor plate, front motor plate, that I can modify and move the crank centerline height if I want to, easy with just getting 2 parts laser cut. The only other thing I'd have to modify is the transmission cross member in the back, but I have it sitting on a poly mount, so I could take the poly mount out and just put some spacers in it or something to take up that space and make it solid. But it is kind of a double frame rail car. They sent me a few bars that were pre-bent-ish and long. I needed to notch them to fit. So I also made some other jigs to help me get those the right height and spacing and keep it level with the floor. This cage is like super flat, level, square. Like the way they do it on a jig is amazing. Like it's the only way I think to make these cars perfect. They do a really, really nice job, and I'm really happy that I went with them. Some other stuff that I added were these hatch mounts, because I still have the stock glass for now, and it's really heavy. So that kind of supports the roof, and then the hatch glass will just, the hinge will bolt right through those, and that'll hopefully support it. Another thing is I still have stock doors. They're gutted some, but they're heavy. So I made these little 3/4 inch tubes that come off, and they welded right to the back of the hinge area. So beef that up. I've been working on some of the inner sheet metal. I got a couple panels back here done. I struggled with that because I don't have the greatest tools and I don't know what I'm doing. So it's tin snips, a hammer, a grinder, and I'm borrowing a bead roller from a buddy at work and trying to learn how to do that. That's a lot harder than it looks, for me anyways. But then I started putting these scallop strips in here on the double frame rail. Oh, also built this drive shaft can. I want to keep this thing as light as possible, and instead of like covering this whole tunnel with steel and welding it in, and giving the drive shaft more room to go places if it decides to break, I wanted to put a can in it and go all the way to the back, so the whole drive shaft's covered from the driver or from me. And then put carbon panels or aluminum, whichever I decide or have money left for, I guess, at the end to finish the inside. But so that's what I decided to do, is just make a big drive shaft can. It is a little bit, the can's heavy or itself, but it's less steel than if I would have covered this whole thing with steel. So trying to think of every little way to save weight without breaking the bank. Like, I mean, that can could have been titanium, but that's another couple $1,000s for just making that. So also needed room for the seat, which this has been a struggle trying to figure out. I drew this stuff up, or I made it out of cardboard templates first, and then drew it up on the computer, send, laser cut, and I missed it by a little bit because my cardboard wouldn't stay square apparently. So getting this piece remade, turning this into just like a couple Zeus rails so I can take this off to get the pin out. And the other side I'll show you. I've got basically the same thing, but the floor's solid because the driver's floor needs to be all steel. But it has a seat mount, which I had to come up with. That was another hurdle. I mean, you can't just buy brackets to bolt to the floor, so everything has to be made in these kind of cars, and it takes so much time when you don't know what you're doing and trying to look online and see how other people have done it, and then your cage doesn't look like theirs, or you don't have the same amount of room, and it's really hard. But you just got to stand back and stare at it for a while and see what you can come up with. So I've got 4 different spots that the seats hook to down here, and then this is the back brace with 2 bolts in it. Can't get much lighter of a seat mount than that. So that turned out pretty good. I got a parachute handle mount welded in up there. I I started on these Zeus tabs. These I thought were gonna be a little more tricky than they really are, but I made some cardboard templates to figure out where, like, this needs to have a bend in it, either like here diagonal or here, because these planes aren't the same. I don't know if carbon's that fussy to bend like that, but if it was tin, it would need to have a small bend in it. But to keep these tabs like flush with the front of the tube, I saw something on another YouTube channel where the guy used a magnetic strip to hold kitchen knives. And I looked on Amazon and I was like, man, they're like 30 bucks. There's gotta be something cheaper than that. And some different sizes. Well, I found these tool holders. They're magnetic bars on Harbor Freight, and they're like $4 or $6 or something like that. And basically, you can just magnet it to the tube, stick your tab on, hold it up there, tack it, and now it's flush with the front and lined up across. And that has been a lifesaver, like especially doing like all these scallop strips to keep them like flush to the front of the tube and straight. It's actually makes it not that bad to do. Another little trick that kind of figured out is when you buy these scallop strips, they come in like 48 or 40-inch long pieces, basically as wide as a sheet of steel. And then you have to trim them and grind them and make the ends look pretty. And I wasn't gonna try to make this piece like, or I guess like in this corner, like come all the way up and weld to this tube or anything like that. Like, I'm not trying to get that fussy. So what I did is I drew up sets of 2-hole, 3-hole, 4-hole ones, send cut send, and then got a whole assortment of them. So that saves a lot more time than trimming these and cutting them and making them all look pretty. They're already pre-cut, ready to put on. So I kind of went around the car and measured around and seen like what size of tubes or scallop strips I need. So like that one's a 4-hole one, 3-hole, and then my plan is to put scallop strips on the bottom and put like basically a belly pan under the whole car to make it all smooth and aerodynamic. Any little bit that you can do at this stage, if you think about it, you kind of want to do it, you probably should, because it's gonna be a lot harder to do it later than it is right now. Even if it is kind of a hard job, now's the time to do it. So yeah, that's kind of like the inside of the car. I guess the way I mounted the back of the car was, this stock sheet metal is really hard to weld to, or TIG weld anyways. It's got some like E-coat stuff, primer, I don't know what on it, but it just pops and bangs and it's horrible. So I wire welded this plate onto here and then take my tubes to that plate, but this is pretty solid. It's obviously gonna get more bracing as I put the carbon in the back and the tubs and all that, but the front end, this was another struggle for me. I whipped up these fixtures to hold the struts in place, and that's for a 26-inch tire, I believe, yeah. And that's the ride height that it's gonna sit at. The whole car is sitting at ride height, so the top of the table is the ground. And when I did that, and I still had all the stock fender and everything in here, the tire was hitting basically the inner fender. So I'm like, well, that's gotta come out. And I was like, well, maybe I should put some strut cups in it and do it right. So went that route and did a bunch of measuring and angle finding and got my caster set where I wanted it and played around with the A-arm adjustments to get my theoretical wheelbase set. I don't have a rear end, but I just went off the center of the wheel well, be pretty close, and got those mounted, got some Hammer Concepts adjustable strut cups. They're super nice. They're not cheap, but they are really nice. And they have a dummy bearing that you can put in here that keeps this cup aligned with the shock shaft. So this is directly lined up with the shock and it's not moving all over. So those are installed, and then I braced this back to where this X lines up right here, because this is going to try to push back and one of the other pushing against something. I could have went way up here in the top by the dash bar, but it'd be even more impossible to weld, so went there. It looks a little different than most normal cars, but that is the strongest spot to tie it back to. And then I could have ran this bar all the way up to the front end, but I kind of want to make the front end more universal, I guess. So I'm gonna have kind of like a subframe, I don't know what you call it, that bolts on here on each side, and then another set of 4 bolt tabs on here, so I can take it off and switch it out if I ever switch to twin turbos or something different. Or if I have a drag and drive front end and then I want to put my drag only front end on it with a small radiator and stuff. So that's kind of the thought behind that. And so actually last night I got these fit and the motor plate bars fit, and got that all set up, which it turned out pretty good. The bars actually are pretty well lined up with each other, even though they're like weird angles. It took a while to do, but it's coming along slowly but surely. I mean, I've got so many hours of cutting and grinding, just getting the body ready. Like that's a lot of work. I can see why these cars cost as much as they do if you have everything hired done. But if you can do some stuff yourself, you can save a lot of money. Just takes a lot of time. Whichever one you got the most of is, I guess, what you can use. But this is kind of the progress I got so far. I got all this stuff to build the rear suspension minus the I got the wishbone minus the sway bar or anti-roll bar, and I'm waiting on getting a rear end. Once I have that, like, this thing could actually be a roller with not that much more time, which seems crazy, but still a lot of fab work to do. I actually built these headers for my old car and I kept them when I sold it. I was like, oh yeah, I can use those. Well, the old car, the motor was lower in the chassis and the chassis was higher off the ground. So maybe the motor was like basically the same crank center line height, but the car was higher. And now my headers hit these inner fenders. So I'm either gonna have to chop and modify the flange on them or build another set, and probably end up building another set. But yeah, still using the same engine out of the car. I mean, it's only got 16 passes on it and a couple 100 miles, so it's still should be a pretty good unit. I might pull the heads off and check everything out and maybe put new head gaskets in it just because, but it doesn't really need it. Still same transmission, but I think I might get a SFI case, especially now that I mean, I'm gonna have to get an SFI case, especially now that the whole tunnel is exposed, or it'll be covered with carbon or aluminum or something. But man, if that thing grenades, it's gonna go flying. And I know there's blankets, I have a blanket for it, but they make a lot of heat and they're hard to trust. But yeah, so I guess the next steps is to design the front end, which I have to have my wife help me load the front clip back on this thing so I can measure how far out the bars need to go, figure out turbo placement. I'm just going to run the same FIS turbo, maybe in the same spot as I had it before. I don't know yet. It'd be easy to put it in the same spot, but gotta think that through. One thing that I'd like to do in this car is make the passenger seat with the seat belts like easily removable, maybe with a couple pins. That way you can, you know, yank the seat out if you're just gonna race it, throw the seat in if you're street driving or dragon driving. If I'm at the track and I need to get into here to pull like this pin out or take this panel off and work in here, do something, or get under the dash, it'd be really nice to be able to take the seat and just throw it out of the car with the belts attached to it. I mean, make a pretty sturdy frame that the belts can hang on to, but if anybody has any experience with that or ideas, I've looked at a few, and I mean, it's like the seat mounts, like every car is so different, it's hard to imagine that being like in your own car. So if anybody's got some ideas for that, I'm all ears. Yeah, so it's gonna be finishing up the interior as much as I can before I get a rear end. Once I get the rear end, I can get some tubs ordered, get those here, get those fit, and then work my way back. So now I'm kind of at a standpoint on that. The reason I'm actually making this video tonight is my welding hood battery died and I don't have another one. So decided to clean the shop a little bit and make an update video. But yeah, I think tonight I'm gonna do some measuring and figure out what I need for a front motor plate. I might try to integrate an alternator mount in it. My alternator was on the passenger side. I need to move it to the driver's side because I have some plans for a FluidWorks oil pump. Either sometime in the near future or maybe down the road. I just want to keep that open, that side. And that's right where the pump goes, so I need to move the alternator over. And then figure out this front end. Yeah. Oh, some other stuff I got here. I got the floor. So I do have the floor basically all cut out and ready to drop in. Still need a little bit more trimming on this, but these turned out pretty good for the limited tools I have. Pretty proud of them. So that drops in. Of course, won't fit now. They're a little warped from bead rolling them. I don't have a English wheel to take the stretch out of it. But yeah, I think they're gonna be pretty sturdy. It's 20 gauge steel. A lot of these kind of cars don't have any steel on the passenger side, but I plan on having a passenger, so putting steel in it. It's a little bit more weight, but you gotta do it. I don't want someone sticking their foot through a carbon floor underneath of it by accident, or I want to be comfortable when you're cruising this thing down the road for hundreds of miles at a time. So, yeah. So, as you can see, this project has snowballed out of control compared to where I started, just cutting the front end off. Yeah, so I've been really terrible at making videos. I apologize for that if people have been wondering. I don't know if they are or not, but if you are, leave me a comment or like or something, and that'll maybe give me some more motivation to make some more videos. I really wanted to make it to 6 summer this season, but that was not even close, and it's gonna be really hard to make it even to 2026, I think. Time-wise, budget-wise, gonna have another baby boy or baby girl coming in the beginning of November, so that's gonna take a lot of my nights away, and it's just gonna be really hectic. Good, but hectic. So I'm gonna keep plugging away on this thing, and I'll catch you guys next time.